Hey guys, how's it going? There's been a request for what is in Classroom in the Create button, so I'm going to go through everything, but I'll go over a little more than that. I would say this is a blazing fast video. I'm going to try to go through many things as fast as I can, but it still might take a little bit of time. So again, you could always pause the video. You can go back, try it yourself so you can keep up. First, let's check out Stream. Think of Stream like your Facebook. It's all in a row. The latest thing is up on top. Think about that. It's a way you can communicate with your kids. You could turn off comments so your kids cannot comment. So it could be a one direction way that you could communicate with your students. So you're like, here's a picture I saw today, or here's a message, or here's a flyer, or something like that. Or you could have comments on if you want them to be able to comment back to you so they know the stream can be a place that messages go out to them. Now in classwork right here, that's where all your work is. Let's go ahead and go through everything. If you notice, there are different icons or pictures on each one. So think of it like common sense wise. This is a piece of paper. It's an assignment. That means you're giving them a piece of paper. They will give you back a piece of paper that's all digital. It's an assignment. It's something you want to collect. You don't have to grade it. It could be ungraded, but it's something you want to collect. The next one looks like a little book with a bookmark. So think of it like a material. So something that kids can look at, but it's not anything they're going to do with. There's nothing they need to turn in. Think of it like a reference, like a book, like an encyclopedia. Check out this information. So when you look at both of them, they're going to look basically the same, except the only difference for you as a teacher and them as a student is assignment will have somewhere to turn something in and material won't. So think about it ahead of time. Do you want to collect something back? If the answer is yes, make an assignment. If the answer is no, it's one way. I just want them to watch this video, go to this website, read this page, then make it a material, because you don't want your kids to be confused and say, well, I did my work. There's nothing to turn in. What do you want me to do here? And then it'll be less for you to look at later. So let's go ahead and look at view material. Like I just said, see, there's just a material. There's just something for a kid to click on and then put a comment in the box. There's nothing for them to do. So very easy one way. So here's some materials. So that will be create a material. So then you see you've got your add button. You could add from Google Drive. That's where you should be saving all of your work. It makes it the easiest way for Google Classroom. A link would be an actual website link, something you've saved. A file is something saved on your computer at home. So maybe like a picture, a Word document, something you previously had saved. And YouTube is just a YouTube video. You could search right here, but probably you've already have your YouTube video found in another tab. So you just copy and paste that URL right there and the YouTube video will pop up for your kids. Now, if you're like, I don't have anything to give to my kids, I'm going to create it right now. It's easiest just to create it right here inside your Google Classroom. You could create that document right here, so that way you don't have to create it and then add it in your material or assignment. You can create it right here, and that'll be saved inside your Google Drive there. Now let's look at our assignment. So an assignment, again, look, it looks exactly the same. There's nothing different here. You still give it a title. You could still give instructions if you want. Nothing different. The exact same options on both. So again, this is if you want to collect something. So let's go through everything quickly. If you have more than one classroom, then you could pick which classroom you're giving it to. For your students, you could select all your students or just some of them. So if you have ELD kids or just 2 kids that need this extra practice, you could assign it to them. It'll show up in those kids' feed, but not everyone else's feed. For points, it's always default 100. You could change it to whatever you want for your assignments. Or you could just pick ungraded, and that way it won't even show up as a grade at all for the kids. If you show graded, then it'll be in their little Google Gradebook. No, that doesn't sync up with our gradebook at school or anything like that. So you could explain it to your kids, but it helps them see how they did on their assignment, and then you could manually transfer the grades to your gradebook. So you could always change something, to a different point value, whatever you want. You could pick a due date if you want. Maybe during this time everything's due the same week, so you make that due date. When you pick that due date, you could just have it due that day, or you could pick a certain specific time to have things due. For topic, think of a topic as a category, like a folder. So maybe you're making it within weeks. See, I made week 1, and then that was the name of the week, so the kids can easily find it, and I put all that work in that week. Or maybe you want to do it like, go to your social studies folder. They call it a topic, so go to your social studies topic. But probably during this time, maybe you want it by week so kids don't get lost. So I would suggest picking topics. You could always create a new topic if you don't have one made quite yet. Rubric, you could add a rubric if you had one, so don't worry about that right now. Originality report, that's to catch if a kid's cheating, but I believe you only get 3 with Google Classroom just total, so you'd run out of that real quick, so don't even worry about it. And you have good kids, they're not going to cheat, right? So let's go ahead and check it out. So again, if you want your kids to turn something back into you, then you make it an assignment and everything there. So let's go ahead and go back out. So now we'll go ahead and look. So I have assignments right here. Now let's go ahead and look back one more time at an assignment. Think if you're giving kids something. Here's my suggestion, what I say. When you add something from your Google Drive, which is what I always suggest, I'm going to put something in there. So let's say I pick this assignment right here. Now, student can view the file. That means you want them to look at it kind of like, hey, look, here's this cool piece of paper, but don't write on it, like that kind of idea from the classroom. And always think of Google Classroom like a physical classroom. It works the exact same way. Or do you want a student to be able to edit it? So that would be like, hey, I made copies at the photocopier. I gave you all a piece of paper. You guys all have your own copy here. So they'll have their own copy that they can then turn in. So, oh, I'm sorry. I said that. No, I made an accident. No. Erase. Student can edit file. Erase. That means that a student could edit your work. See, that's not cool. There's a big difference. So that means you have one piece of paper, and then that's like the master piece of paper that your coworker gave to you, and they're like, don't mess with this, and then you accidentally write all over it. That's what students can edit file means. That means you have one piece of paper and you're giving it to every kid, and every kid can write on that one piece of paper. Not a good idea. That would be good for collaborating. If you're like, hey, I'm making a birthday list, everyone write down what you want for your birthday. That will be in one document, but that will be writing on your file. Not a good idea. So what I suggest is the third one. Make a copy for each student. This is the one where, hey, you went to the copy machine, you're making a copy for each student, and that's the best one, because watch, check it out. I'm going to go back out and I'll show you what I mean. So if you make a copy for each student, then once you have the assignment in there, so check it out. I made a copy for every single student. So then what this means is, even though a student hasn't turned the work in, you can still look at it. So you can look and you could see the work they've done already. Just like if you were a teacher and you're walking around and you're looking at their desk and you're like, hey, good work there, good work there. So you could see if a student hasn't touched anything, or you can see if a student is doing well. So that way, it's a quick way to peek into your classroom, see how they're doing. You could always comment and message on them if you want. So then when you click on it, you'll be able to already see. You could already give them a private comment. You could actually click on something in their work, and you could, write a comment if you want, and add a comment in that a student could see right there on their work. You could look and see if they've completed everything, and you're like, all right, they did complete some work there. Great job. And you'd be able to see all of that. But again, that's because I put something inside of their classroom, so that way they could have it. But if I just assigned an assignment and didn't put anything in there, then what the student's going to have to do is the student's going to have to be like, oh, I need to get my own piece of paper. And then you don't know where their work is. You can't just look at their work because maybe they didn't even get a piece of paper out of their desk, or maybe they're hiding their paper in, their backpack or their desk or their book. You don't know where it is. You can't see it. So I always suggest make your own document, even if it's just the directions, like write an essay, and then you give them that piece of paper right there, and then they could be writing on that paper. So it's a lot easier when you give them a piece of paper instead of them having their own piece of paper. All right, Kami assignment. That's an extension I added on. Don't worry about that one right now. Let's see, a question. Now, a question, look, it's exact same thing again. You could add work, you could create, it's exactly the same, but the only difference is you're asking a question. So you could put something in there and then look, what kind of response do you want back? A short answer, like a kid could type freely anything they want, or a multiple choice, and then you could add multiple choice and have as many options as you want. So I did this for my kids, and it was like, do you have your 5-a-day books? And they wrote yes or no, or I have one of them, or, you know, that kind of thing. Or you could just have a short answer question. So maybe you have a question like, you know, what does the weather look like outside today? And they could all type something. But the question is viewable by your whole classroom. So if you wrote something like, you know, a math problem like what's 3 plus 4, and one kid puts 7, every kid in class is going to see that answer, so they could put 7 7 7 7, and everyone's answering it. So it's not like, you know, this is private, but it's if you want to ask a question out there and you want everyone to be able to put in their responses and see their responses. It also tallies it for you. So if you were doing a multiple choice, you would know exactly how many kids answered. So 18 out of 28 answered. You would know how many, like 11 answered yes, 7 answered no. So it would be able to have everything for you. It's a cool way to see things and a great way to do it. And a lot of times it's good for kids to see other kids' answers. Even if they are, you know, copying their answer, they'll be able to see it. They'll be able to change their answer or expand on that kind of idea. So that's a question. So think of it like you're asking a real question in the classroom, and anyone can raise their hand and submit their answer, and everyone can hear them. So always think of Google Classroom like a regular classroom. All right, reuse post. This one is amazing as well, because if you already have a post that you want to use, like I'm going to do the same thing every single week, well, check it out. I could simply click on a post, and then is going to go through and is going to already have exactly everything that's in my post. And you're like, oh, well, no, I want to change it from week 1 to week 2, and then boop, I'm already done. Or I want to edit something, or I'm going to delete that one out and add a new video. So saves you time. So sure, you're doing time in the beginning, but then it's going to save you time later. Alrighty, create a topic. That's just making one of the topics like we talked about, kind of like one of the folders, see right here. And you can always rearrange those. So see, you could move them down, you could move them up, and that'll rearrange it here on the physical screen. And then if you notice, it'll rearrange it here on the side screen, so you could put everything in that perfect order the way you want kids to see it in your classroom. And the last one you're going to have is quiz assignment right here. Now, we're not going to take a long time on this one because it would take a lot of time to explain it. But think about, look, it just created a blank quiz. Everything else is exactly the same. You could still have the same thing here because a quiz is an assignment, something you want them to do. So everything looks the same right here, but now you're using a Google form, which is a quiz. So all you simply do is you're going to click on that quiz right there and then just make a quiz that could automatically be graded for you. So the first thing I would suggest would be change your name, you know, up here. So maybe you want it to be video paused here. So fractions quiz, you're going to want to change your name up here so that way you could find it later. Otherwise it's going to be in your Google Drive and you'll be like, what did I call it? So then you're going to want to change it up here. So maybe the same thing down here. So fraction quiz, this is what the students are going to see. And then you could make a multiple choice and look at all these options. Short answer, paragraph, check boxes, a drop down menu. You could have a linear scale like you know, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Multiple choice, you have tons of stuff and everything in there. But the first thing I always suggest is, so let's say I have all my different answers in here, A, B, C, D. If you notice, I'm not even typing that. It's smart, and it just knows it. So then I could go and put my answers in there, and I could pick which one is the correct answer. It'll automatically grade it for me. I could assign it point values. I want everything to be worth 1 point in there. And it'll grade it all for you. It'll all be awesome. You can add pictures on there. So if you're like, what is this a picture of? And that could be a picture question. Solve this fraction, and it shows a picture. You could be adding those things. You could add a YouTube video that they need to watch and discuss and talk about, and just keep adding questions in here as you go. you could go in here and you change your themes, change your colors, change your pictures, your headers. You could preview your quiz to see what it'll look like, so you could see that student view of it. So you have tons of different things you could do, but I always suggest look at the settings right there. So look, I always say collect those email addresses so you know who it came from. Then you might want to limit a kid to just one response, so that way they can't submit the quiz 12 times until they get 100%. See, restrict it to people just inside the school district so other people aren't taking your quiz. And see, it's always checked right here, make this a quiz. So technically it's a quiz, it could be graded. You could have it automatically grade things. You could have students be able to see their incorrect answers or not see their incorrect answers. So again, you could check this out later, but really it's just a quiz, and it's something where you could send out and collect all your responses. Then you'll be able to view everything, and you'll be able to see all those responses, and you'll be able to check it out. You could look at the responses and see them as like a spreadsheet, so you could see that spreadsheet and see everything through. You could sort your data, you can get all super nerdy, or just scroll through it. So hopefully that worked for you and you can understand Google Classroom better. Keep asking those questions.